Hi, Jegaysus.
Hello, heathen. Who are you? Where's the heathens? Are you a
I'm the
heathen?
heathens today.
Okay. Okay. Hi, heathen.
Hi.
Introduce yourself.
Okay. So for those who saw the Drunk Shenanigans episode where Jess and Andrew got unbelievably wasted and were talking about Paul, I kind of introduced myself at that point. So my name is Karayah. I'm on TikTok as Courageous, and I am the producer for the Unholy Trinity. And so I am the one that if it ever looks like they're talking to someone off of camera or, that like someone edited something to make them look good, it was me. So the reason we're talking tonight is because Jegaysus and I both went to the American Atheist Convention last weekend. And something
Feels like it's been a
happened.
month already. I was like, was it last weekend? Yeah, it was only 7 days ago.
Right? 7 days ago, I saw you face to face.
Yeah.
Your wonderful Jegaysus getup. I had a TikTok that I know compared to like some of the bigger people on TikTok that like having like almost 15,000 views wouldn't be like huge, but like for me, I just hit 1,000 over this like past week of followers, and so like this was like a very big deal. But if people haven't seen it, it's essentially at the American Atheist Convention, a group of evangelical Christians came in and were trying to convert us, and they singled in on Jegaysus because, of course.
I don't know if I'd even say they singled in on me. I feel like I singled in on them.
Well, as soon as because you wanted to talk to them, like
Yes.
I was in the same camp too until they started saying a bunch of homophobic shit, and we'll get to that. But I wanted to talk to them too.
Mm-hmm.
But then once they heard your name, once they were like, "And what's your name?" and you were like, "Jegaysus," they were like, "What?"
What?
Like you broke their brains. Like,
That's my government name for anyone out there.
yeah, like the TikTok that I had was because of like I was filming during that time, and I wasn't the only one. Atheist Underground was also doing some filming, but I had like little shorter clips of like what happened, and so I was able to like find a clip where he was praying for your sodomite spirit, and that's where I personally just like fucking lost it.
Giving me a cough. I mean, it was a creative one. It was, but no, you definitely you can hear you in the background of the video getting emotional in terms of like sounding like you're gonna hit somebody.
Yeah. No, I was ready to like, oh my gosh, I was so mad because it's not like, like you could pray for someone. If you're like at an atheist convention, someone's like, "Hey, can I pray for you?" And if that person prays like, "Hey, I hope that God reveals himself to you," like that's what atheists are always saying that they need is the evidence. So I hope that God gives you the evidence that you are asking for. I would not find that offensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they immediately were expecting results, like that would be a problem. But like them doing that, them being like, "We need to pray for your sodomite spirit," means that they were like literally trying to pray that who you are as a human being and a person would change.
Right.
And they can go suck it. Like,
let the gay demon be out.
The gay demon.
That's pretty much what they're saying. Like, it's not that I'm gay, it's that I'm possessed by a sodomite spirit. Is that...
Yeah.
Which is, okay. Yeah.
Like, what?
I guess.
I can't...
It would have been really funny if I, like, started to break into it more with them and been like, I'm asexual. Like, sodomize who? No.
Right.
But...
No, because that's what, like, I've discovered I'm bi, like, last June. Like, literally during Pride Month, I was, like, on TikTok and being like, why am I being attracted to women in a way that I've never been attracted to before? And then, like, I started looking back at my life and, like, a lot of things have started making sense that never made sense before. But I'm also on the ace spectrum, so a lot of other things. So it's like, for me, I'm the exact same way.
Same. I mean, and for all my potential husbands out there, I'm not saying I won't have sex. I'm not sex adverse. Greg Locke, call me. Joking. I might not want to have sex with Greg Locke, but Ben Shapiro.
You can't even so the only thing that I would find acceptable is pegging Greg Locke. Where you don't have to touch him.
That's
but
what I'm getting at, I think.
Just make him suffer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just like a humiliation kink.
Maybe the only soundbite that they get from this is Jegaysus wants to peg Greg Locke.
I'm still just waiting for them to pick up one of my TikToks. I don't understand what else I have to do. Back to the story. So here's the thing. The fact that they are a group of Christian men, and there was 2 women, but in Christian fashion, they were very quiet.
Some of the women were talking about how you could be healed from it. I'm like, no.
Oh, I didn't even hear that. I've never even talked to them.
Yeah, they were talking to me, and that's why, I was already super annoyed trying to explain how, why, because you were trying to explain why it's offensive, and then the women were trying to talk about it, and I'm like, no, that's not real.
Yeah.
That's not real. You can't heal someone from sexuality. It is their sexuality. It's how they are wired.
Right. And little have they known that, I've been through the whole conversion route. Obviously they don't know my backstory. I get it. But it's so funny to me. And that's kind of what I was going to say, too. The fact that they were not even necessarily there to protest, right? They weren't there as a counter protest. It was more to, like you said, convert people from their atheism or their non-belief or what have you. And the funniest part about it is and this is a problem I think widely with evangelical Christians not understanding what atheism is as a concept, is they don't realize how many of us not only know our shit, but have gone through the entire steps that they're going through. We've been missionaries. We've been handing out tracts and trying to save people. We, in my case, have been through conversion therapy and have done the whole pray away the gay thing. So it's preaching to the choir before the choir blew up and left the church. But it's the tricks per se of the trade, the apologetics isn't going to work because we know the talking points. The outreach isn't going to work because we know the talking points. You can't pray for me to be not gay because we've done the thing. So it's just kind of talking to a wall, but the wall's trying to talk back. And I think that took them a little bit by surprise too, because there's multiple people trying to talk to them. They didn't know how to respond.
Well, but it was also really strange because if I tried to set any boundaries at all, and this wasn't in the TikTok, I wish that I could have showed this, because the moment you try to be I don't want to talk about this, or no, I don't want to pray with you, or no, I don't, I don't agree with you, they'd be oh, see, I heard that atheists were immoral. I heard that atheists have no manners. I heard atheists were rude. There was some guy at a bar being hey, girl, you want to get a drink with me? Oh, well, you're ugly anyway.
Pretty much. And
they were trying to neg you. I remember, my friend Karen, who's freaking gorgeous at one point, had a guy message her in her DMs being don't let anyone ever tell you you're ugly. You are, but don't ever let anyone ever tell you that. And we were just what? It's they're trying to get attention so fucking bad.
They're so crazy. People are insane. No, it's exactly like that. It's literally I don't know how to describe it, because it's just funny to me, because they come in with this I want to show you that we're not like that. We are Christians, but not all Christians do that. We just showed up into your space to invade your space to talk to you about the thing we want to talk to you. But we're not like that. We want a conversation. And then as soon as you start trying to have a conversation, they're no, I just want to pray for you. And then as soon as you're don't pray for me, they're we're going to pray for you. It's great. I love that.
Yeah, it was because you were just fine, if someone wants to pray for you, you're do your voodoo magic shit. I don't believe in it anyway.
Yeah.
But, then he took out that fucking oil, and it was for all you know, it could have been poison.
That's what I'm saying. Thank you. Thank you. Another one. Thank you. Because here's the thing, and the only reason I said don't pray for me too is I don't care. I don't give a shit if people pray for me. But I do want to test people on like their consent levels because I already knew what was going to happen. So when I said don't pray for me, I didn't mean it as like I'm going to cry. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad if somebody out there really does have trauma to a point where they really feel uncomfortable when people pray for them, but I'm not one of them. I just wanted to see if he would listen, because the thing is, he'd already expressed that he doesn't have any kind of boundaries. This is particularly the shorter guy in the video, if anyone's seen it. Because in our conversation, I was trying to mirror his behavior, which is like, you know, what you do in a conversation, I guess. But throughout, he would be like, you know, putting his hand on my shoulder, being like, okay, we're going to do blah, 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 and like, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember what he was saying. But I'd be like, please don't touch me, right? And he didn't. That was the first time he did that. So then, as we continued to talk, we walked away from the convention and down towards the lobby. And he'd still continuously put his hand on my arm or put his hand on my shoulder. And so I was like, fine, okay, I'm going to do the same thing. So if I reached out to put my hand on his shoulder, he'd be like, dude, what the fuck? Don't touch me. Don't touch. Like, I was like, he's going to catch the gay, you know? And he's like, don't touch. And I was like, oh, so you do have boundaries. Okay, cool. So because of that interaction, and then immediately after, started putting his hands back on me. So I was like, okay, when he asked to pray, I was like, let's see if he can hold the boundary concept. So I was like, yeah, please don't pray for me. I don't appreciate it. You can't just pray for anybody. If they say no, you should probably just hold it to yourself and pray at home. And then he's like, no, we're going to pray for you. And then put his hands on me again. And I was like, he does not. So you understand boundaries, just not for you. And that's the issue.
Because he's entitled to it. Exactly. He's entitled to save your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have the Great Commission, and consent is not something that is taught in evangelical churches. That was literally, I made a TikTok about it this week of someone talking about, because, Captain Dadpool and I think his name is like John Steele or something, were going back and forth about whether God raped Mary.
Yeah.
You know, because, I mean, she was like a 13 or 14-year-old girl. He doesn't ask her. He tells her what is going to happen to her.
Right.
And someone in one of John's comments was like, well, it doesn't matter. This is not human to human. This is God to Mary. And so like it doesn't matter if she was okay with it or not. And so I responded to it being like, that mindset is exactly why the evangelical church struggles so much with the concept of consent. And because of, you know, if you have a mindset where you cannot question authority of like, well, God's a higher authority than me, and so I just have to accept it, then that authoritarian mindset applies to so many other things. And that's how you get fucking John MacArthur and Hillsong and all of the shit that's coming out that people hid, that they try to cover up, that they excuse, they justify. There are still people that have read all of the evidence about John MacArthur and are just refusing to believe it. You know, and so it's
absolutely
just like,
it's where pastoral authority turns into pastoral abuse. And I mean, there shouldn't be any such thing as pastoral authority in the first place, but it's like, since I'm a man of God, for you to question me would be akin to questioning God, and people use that to get into some bad situations with consent.
That's what, like, Andrew Seidel has, like, talked about that in The Founding Myth, that, like, our Constitution, like, one of the reasons why Christian nationalism is just so bass-ackwards is because they believe that, like, the laws in there, like, in the Constitution, that they are God-given rights.
Right.
But God-given rights are weak and frail, and they can be reinterpreted by people claiming to speak for God. Human rights are way stronger, and that is actually what the Constitution is built on.
Sure. I never thought about it like that. In terms of the Constitution. I need to read The Founding Myth. I've never read it. I need to go back and do this. I have like the longest book list, and I never have any time to read.
Dude, I totally feel that. I'm like going through like 2 or 3 different books right now because I listen to Dave Warnock's book when I'm driving. I read The Founding Myth when I have like a physical book, and then sometimes I'll listen to Seth Andrew's, but his stuff, like right now he's on like this evolution chapter, and I'm a visual person, and so he's describing these things, and like I'm driving and I'm like, I'm totally fucking lost about what he's talking about. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna like listen to it while I'm reading his Kindle, because I have the Kindle version too. Yeah. Anyway, so going back to the topic,
so it's just funny. So it's all funny like, to me, but not
like entitlement and like this compulsion of like from the Great Commission, because like there's all these messages about like when you get to heaven, you're gonna God's going to essentially judge everything you did in your life.
Yeah.
So he's going to
every interaction. You have to be 100%.
How many opportunities you had to share the gospel, and you didn't. Which is so funny, because like when I was a Christian, what I was taught was that you want to have the opportunities, but that it has to be Holy Spirit led, because if the
That's what I was taught. Yes, you have to wait for the Spirit to speak to you, and they will let you know the time and the place, and if the person is right to talk to. They will guide you to the person that's ready to hear it.
Because then it's when they're like their hearts are softened and able to hear it. And and like I don't believe there's such a thing as a Holy Spirit. Like people are just emotionally vulnerable, or they're not.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you really believe that the Holy Spirit, like it's dependent on the Holy Spirit, then why the fuck are you trying to impose this on other people? Like when I was a Christian, I was intensely passionate about it, and everybody knew about it. Like literally every person in my life knew how passionate and on fire I was for it.
Yeah.
I never told anybody about my faith once, unless either they told me about their faith first, and I was like, hey, would you like to know what I believe? Or they were asking for advice about something, and I'm being like, okay, just as a disclaimer, I am a Christian, so this impacts how I view the world.
Yeah.
But not in a way that I was like trying to like tell them what to believe.
Right. Well, I mean, I had like scheduled mission trips, but I wouldn't do it in my regular life otherwise. But like if it was like where it was a group activity, which to be fair, this kind of was, they were in a group, so maybe that's why. But like that would be me on the streets of San Francisco. But I would never push it on anybody that didn't want to hear. You know what I mean? Like if somebody was like, if I stopped them, like, hey, let me tell you about this thing called Jesus. And they're like, okay, yeah, I have a couple of minutes. And then I would talk with them. But if they were like, no, I don't want to hear about it, that's not like, let me pray on you and let's break out some oil and you need an exorcism. Because if you don't want to hear about it, that means that you have the devil blocking your heart and your brain is hardened. God is the only one who hardens hearts. But
actually, I had a really great idea for a TikTok where it's like your Jegaysus, and then you get your sodomite spirit exorcised from you, and you're just still like, no, it's still me, I'm fucking fantastic. Okay. Like, it's just who I am.
It could be good. After there used to be that filter with the ghost coming out of your body filter, we could use that.
Yeah, that would be great.
No, but I do want to touch on that oil thing again, because somebody in the comments, they were like, I don't remember. It wasn't even in this video. I commented on somebody else's video about consent, and I was like, I had somebody pray for me this weekend, blah, 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 and I was like, it's an entire consent violation. But somebody followed up on that comment. They're like, oh, I saw that video of that guy, and he said, I'm now starting to think more and more that was a violation of your rights and your autonomy, and I would be pressing charges. And I was like, I'm not going to press charges. Like, he's going to do whatever he's going to do. As I said, I didn't take that much offense to him praying for me. However, had he broken that oil out of the vial after I had asked him not to, I would have entirely, probably not thrown hands because I'm a pacifist, but I would entirely have been calling the police, and I entirely would have been pressing charges as abuse. Because I don't know what the fuck that is in, and I would sue him for emotional distress. Because as you said, that could have been poison, and again, he doesn't know my life and my backstory, which is, again, why you should be having a dialogue and not a preaching session. But, like, I have extremely bad anxiety, and one of the things I'm terrified of is, like, unknown substances. Like, it used to be to the point where I would have a panic attack going to, like, a McDonald's where they have the public soda fountains. Because I would be afraid of, like, what if somebody took acid and put it inside the ring of the spout, and then when I go to get it, then the drink comes out with acid in it, and the next thing I know, I'm tripping on acid because I didn't know somebody drugged me. That used to terrify me. So if he had put that oil on me, I would have lost it.
Yeah. Oh, man. I mean, I get it, though, because I have, like, super bad anxiety about everything. I literally, the first day of the convention was having to, like, self-soothe myself the whole time and just be like, people like you, you're okay, they don't hate you, like, because I hadn't been around people, especially not that many people, in like 2.5 years, you know. So like for me, I was like, my social anxiety hit so hard, and like after the first day I felt way better because like then, you know, I, like the first day I was able to like meet everybody and interact with them, and it's hard to be like, Jegaysus hates me whenever I saw you and you were like, hey, like, you know, like, you know, like that just like was like, okay, like this is my brain being a bully, and this is like where things are really. And so
your brain versus reality.
Second and third day, I was able to enjoy myself way better.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So I can only imagine, because now, like, I had no idea I had social anxiety as a kid. I had no idea. Anytime in church, anytime they wanted you to like pray out loud in a group, that was absolutely like nerve-wracking for me. I hated it. And part of it was because like that's just not how I felt comfortable expressing my faith, because in Matthew Jesus says to pray in private. But part of it also was because I had social anxiety and I had no idea. And so it was like, do I have to?
See, that's the funny thing, because like I have social anxiety, but I'm a performer. So like I would be at battle with myself being like, I don't want to do this, I'm introverted, I don't want to, but also hear me speak. So I think like I combated that by being exuberant, I'd say, instead of like acting like a normal person and just being like, thank you God I'd be like, thank you, oh Heavenly Father. I'd make it a performance. That's how my anxiety came out.
It's all a performance anyway.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
Genuinely seeking it, but yeah,
very true. And that's the other thing. I mean, do you know if those guys recorded all these interactions? Have we found out? Has anybody tagged anybody in anything? Or were they doing this like on their own private accord, or were they trying to be public about it?
I don't think anyone was recording anything. I haven't heard that. The only people that were recording was Atheist Underground, which like got into us. So that's the other part that we need to talk about, is those parents.
Oh yeah.
The parents that were like calling a manager, and it was like, oh my gosh. And I was so lit up and like mad, because like I'm generally a pretty calm person. I try to be very kind. You come after one of the people that I love, I become like a fucking mama bear. Like, how dare you pray for my friend Jegaysus' sodomite spirit? Like, how fucking dare you? You know, I can like every single.
I wish I would have flipped that on him. I don't think fast enough sometimes, but now I should have flipped it back on him and prayed so hard and been like, dear God, please let my little king here decide that he is okay to be bi, and please let somebody sodomize him tonight. Show him how much he enjoys being a bottom.
Yes.
I should have seen what his response.
Good news, right?
Good news. It's okay to like dick.
Yeah. Because, like, I don't know. Like, like I said, I can be pretty, but, like, if it's somebody that I care about and I'm protective of, like, you better get out of my way. Like, sometimes, like, I'll be on, like, a live, you know, like, when Jess, Heathen Queen is on a show, and people will be in the comments and they'll be like attacking her, and she's saying the exact same things as the men on screen, and they won't have any problems with the things that the men said. But the moment she says it, suddenly they're like being like, I don't like her attitude. She's very snobby. And I'm like, I have never ever heard anyone describe, and they'll be like, it's not because she's a woman, it's because of her attitude. I'm like, No, it's because she is a woman who is calling out white supremacy in a very unapologetic way.
Yep.
I've never once heard someone call Matt Dillahunty snobby.
No. I've heard them complain about his attitude, but I've never heard them say that he's snobby.
Right? Like,
that's a very specific, that's like, yeah, the way that women are tone police into, like, being, as soon as they're not, like, not a pacifist, but as soon as they're not, like, pleasurable, as soon as they're not, like, of service, like, they don't have, like, that attitude of, like, hi, let me help you. In any kind of interaction, even if that's in a debate, they're expected to be, like, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but I believe a little bit differently. As soon as that pretense of, like, I'm here to be a woman under you drops, and, like, they're just people, then they're a bitch. Then they're stuck up. Then, no, but I think that's the whole issue. And I think we saw that in the group, just trying to circle it back all the time. I think we saw that back in the group, because like you said, the women talk to you. I never saw the women talk to anyone else in terms of, like, the men being there. Like, they kind of just, like, sat back and let the men do their thing, which is, like, you know, Evangelical Cult 101. The women are there to support, but they stand right behind the men, who are the ones who are allowed to talk about the gospel and actually interpret it.
Well, and then also because, like, you were wanting to talk with them. I also was wanting to talk with them. Sickness of the Thickness was also wanting to talk with them.
Yeah.
But Sickness of the Thickness was assigned female at birth. I was assigned female at birth, and I do identify as a woman. So, you know, like, they didn't want to talk to me. They singled in. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, they singled you out. And once they heard your name, they were like, we gotta
save him right here. Gotta save him right here. It's dangerous to let this one go. He could die right now and go to hell. Yeah, it was interesting. The only reason I even stepped in, too, because I was going to let it set down and have a good time watching it, is because they were originally at the Black Atheist table. And so I was like, you know, before I get involved in the culture, because, like, you know, let's let the Black Christians and the Black Atheists have it out. But it started getting loud, and it started getting really aggressive, so I stepped in to try to break up at least one of them away, because it was like a 3-on-1 situation, so I was like, let me grab this one and talk to you.
Yeah.
And then they all kind of just followed, and then, you know, we kept on moving it to the lobby, because they're trying to make sure everyone was safe in the atheist space. They're like, we're going to do it outside of our area. Like, there's no reason for you to be here, you didn't buy a ticket. So we all went to the lobby to try to continue it, and in the lobby, this whole time we're recording, right? So when I say we, I mean Atheist Underground was recording. And in the lobby is where we met some friends. Some dad friends.
So let's explain what happened next so that people can understand what we're talking about. So as this was going down, so I had my phone and I was filming, but I was like very like focused in on Jegaysus and the person, and you can kind of see that.
And you're kind of like from the side.
From the side,
yeah.
Right. Well, Atheist Underground, he was streaming this all live on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And so he, you know, he wasn't like really trying to like film the background, but he was trying to film what happened and like what the reactions were. And behind where the evangelicals were, there was this like wall. It was probably like 6 feet tall.
I wouldn't even say it was that big.
You don't think so?
No, it was like a 3-foot ledge, like a planter.
Yeah. Okay. And apparently there were these 2 girls that were sitting there, and these girls, like, we weren't even paying attention to them. We didn't even notice them. But these girls were really young. They were like younger than 14. And so their parents, who were also evangelical Christians, came over and were being like, why are you filming our kids? Like, they're kids. You're a pervert.
Well, here's what had happened. So, like, say I'm facing this way, the short little king's facing this way. Nat is standing over here to the right, and then Atheist Underground was recording, like, straight on, because Nat was, like, sitting here explaining something, and the girls were right behind him. So, with that said, there's, like, this couch seating area, and the dad was sitting down on the couches right to my left, just, like, watching me and my little short king go at it. Like, he was, like, invested over here, right? He interrupted, I don't remember what the word was said, but he interrupted while we were talking, and I think it was probably about consent, actually. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you want to talk about consent? Then why are you guys filming my daughters? Why are you filming my..." And I was like, "I'm not filming anything. I don't know what you're talking about." I look over and I was like, and he's like pointing over them at the wall. He's like, "They are underage girls and you are recording." I'm like, "You're sitting 20 feet away from your daughters. They're not like on camera. Like they're behind somebody's head who's recording something else." I was like, "If you want them out of camera, go get your daughters." I don't...
Right? Like, I don't understand.
Okay.
They were like, because, and they were getting like super violent about it. Like,
then they started getting violent with
woman,
atheists underground.
Like,
yeah.
it's like, I want to say, was her name Susan? Or no, Sam. Sam went over to talk to them and try to like calm them down. And the woman was literally threatening to punch Sam in the face.
The mom came up and the mom was like, "I'm going to hit you in the fucking face then." And I was like, "Little blonde girl, get out of here."
Was also threatening to hit people too. So like both of them were threatening violence, and we were like, and I will say this, Natty Nat, if you guys follow her on TikTok, she was the real MVP of the whole situation. She like was really trying to work with these parents to de-escalate the situation. And at this point, after everything that happened with like them praying for, like the short king praying for you, I was so enraged. I was just seeing red. So like I was not helping the situation with the parents at all, because I was like, "They're your kids, go fucking take care of them. Like, we paid to be here." Like,
no, and I honestly, they were looking to fight. Like, that was the issue. It wasn't that there was anything weird going on. Nobody was being pervy. And obviously, like, there was a commotion happening, and that's what was being recorded. That's obviously what you were sitting here watching. That's obviously what your daughters were over there sitting there watching. But, like, what confused me about the situation is, like, I wanted so hard to just turn it back on the parents and be like, "You guys are shitty-ass parents. Like, that's not anyone's problem but yours. If you don't want your daughters being on camera, then you need to go get your daughters, bring them out somewhere where they're not being filmed, because they can do that, but you're not doing that, apparently. Or B, you need to tell them in your own home, like, hey, if you see people recording in public, try not to be in their camera, because I don't know where those videos are going to end up, and I'm trying to protect you. And, like, you should be having those talks with your daughters anyway, and they should know that. But if you're not, then you're a shitty parent. That's your fault. I'm sorry."
Right. Because, like, with Instagram and with TikTok, like, it's fucking everywhere, and people are filming with their phones all the time.
Yeah.
So if you don't want your kid to be involved in that, like, you need to teach them to like be on the lookout for phones, and if it looks like someone is filming, and being like, well, you don't know if it's facing towards them or if it's facing towards you. So if you feel uncomfortable or you feel like they're filming you, like, get up and go find an adult. Like, you can have these discussions with your kids, but like, they
planted up right behind where Nat was speaking and sat on that wall. So
yeah, they
came into the camera. We did not follow them.
Yeah, and it's like, in the year of our Jegaysus 2022, like, how, like,
they need Jegaysus.
They do. Y'all need Jegaysus, everyone.
But that's where I was afraid, I think I'd say, because, like, people were asking, too, they were like, "Oh my god, I'd be so afraid that, like, they were going to pop off," and I hope they were meaning that not as, like, I mean, like, the 3 or 6 evangelical group, and I hope they weren't saying that because they were black, because, like, rude. But I was like, I was never at once afraid of the black evangelicals. Like, we were in a conversation, I never once thought they were going to hurt me. They're like, "Well, he was touching you. I don't know if he was going to touch you and start hitting you," and I was like, I never once thought it was going to be violent. But I was afraid of that fucking dad and that mom. They got way too aggressive out of nowhere about something so stupid that did not exist. And then they started actually making threats.
And then they got the manager, and we were like, "We're fine." Like, we weren't filming their kid. Like,
not to be racist, but I'm not scared of black people. I'm scared of white people.
No, I totally get it. I totally get it. No, and that's something that, like, because I had a couple of comments that were like, why are black people always so homophobic and religious? And I was like, and for me, it was, first of all, like, just saying, like, black people as an always, because, like, there is a very prevalent, and I mean, I'm white, so I'm not speaking about this from personal experience, but I've been really trying to deconstruct a lot of like the toxic mindsets that I had as a Christian. And I not only grew up as a conservative Christian, but the area that I grow up in is about 95% white.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've checked the census, like, to see if that was an exaggeration. It's not. It is 95% white. It has been for over 100 years because 3 Black men were hung without a trial in the middle of our town square. And 3,000 Black families moved away because they didn't want to die.
Yeah,
like,
fair.
And so, like, I don't have a lot of experience with people of color, like, at least not growing up. Like, as I've gotten older and like you have the option to like be able to go to college and like meet other people and meet, you know, like to seek those kind of people out. I've like met more, but I have a lot of blind spots and I want to be called out on them. Like, because I would rather, because as uncomfortable as it is for me, it's way worse for them to have to live with it. Yeah. So if there's like a little thing that I can do or not say, or, you know, like being like, hey, please don't say this, or, you know, please don't, like, even like just like on Twitter, I had no idea that Black people will capitalize the B. Like, with white people, we don't care. We just say they're white, right? Like, we don't care if they're capitalized or not. But it's for Black people, they want that B capitalized, and I had no idea. And I'm like, oh, that's something
I knew that in the back of my head, but I forgot about that. But the only reason I knew that is because it came up in conversation in Indigenous people's history, because the author of an Indigenous people's history, had to actually point it out, like in the middle of a paragraph. She was like, from here on out, I will be flipping from a lowercase I to a capital I, and the reason I'm putting lowercase I is because it's like basically quotations or paraphrase of what somebody was talking about in terms of Indigenous people's experience. She's like, when it's me writing, I will always use the capital I to refer to. And I was like, and then I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's a whole thing. Black and BIPOC people prefer. And I was like, okay. Yeah, no, I wouldn't have known that either. But that's something that reminded me.
Yeah, or like I had a friend who's from Malaysia, and you know, she was the one who explained, like, it wasn't something that I had said. She just explained why calling them Oriental is offensive. Like being like
Oriental's a pattern.
Well, no, but it's Oriental, like things are Oriental, people are Asian. So exactly. When you call them Oriental, you're calling them a thing.
Exactly.
So, and that's like, and ever since she told me that, I'm like, okay, like it was like a switch, but I need to have that. And so, yeah, no, I didn't feel like, oh, because they were Black or like anything, like I didn't feel unsafe when those parents came in. I was like, they could like get us in trouble because
it was crazy. Like that white dad, I was pretty sure like he was seconds away from hitting me one sentence into the conversation. I thought he was going to swing. And I was like, he's going to swing on me for recording his daughters when I have no phone in my hand. He was yelling at me for recording his daughters this whole time. And I was like, do I look like I'm him? I even said that too. But I'm like, do I look like I am? If you have a problem with him recording and your daughter's in the background, go speak to him. I don't have a camera. Because he was yelling at me. And I was like, this isn't our beef, dude. Get out. People are freaking crazy. But that's the other thing. Like, we need to talk about that for a second, and maybe we can wrap it up after that. But we do not see this happening. Like, as a group, I think non-believers and atheists need to be better at executing like public demonstrations, and we need to get better at showing up and being very public about certain things, like especially when it comes to things like don't say gay and like things where there's religious toxicity coming into politics. I think we need to be better at organizing. But what you do not see, and I can't say ever, but usually you do not see atheist people showing up at church events and inserting themselves into the middle and trying to deconvert people. It's not something you see. We expect people to have questions and we can answer them as best as we can. We love debates. We love dialogue, but you'll never see us show up at a church on Sunday and like put ourselves in a pew and start yelling.
Let's say that did happen. Let's say there's an atheist that decided to go into, so the mega church here, I call it Six Flags for Jesus. It's called James River. Okay. And it, like they'll have like big, like, you know, like there's like the three main big events that mega churches all have, and it's you know, Christmas, Easter, and 4th of July.
Fourth of
Like those are,
July?
yeah. Oh yeah, if you look up
Whoa,
all
that has some
significant-
insidious undertones.
Oh, has some really insidious Christian nationalism undertones to
Wow.
it. But you can look it up and you can see the mega churches, like their measurement of success is whether they have a big fucking spectacle on 4th of July or they don't.
Gross.
Isn't that gross?
It's so gross. I hate this.
And you know, but like, if there was like an Easter service, if an atheist went in and started like calling out the pastor, like in a very public way, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might get a couple of atheists that are like, oh yeah, like religion's toxic, that fucking sucks. The majority of the atheist community would be calling that person out, being like, why did you go into their space on their day and decide to try to ruin it for everybody and get all this attention and make it about yourself? Like, you are giving atheism a bad name. Yet evangelical Christians don't do that. They don't do that with their own.
Here's what I was going to say, too. This is funny. As I said that, I had a core memory unlocked. Because I was like, you don't see, like, atheist groups going to Christian events and protesting them. But you want to know what you do see? Christians going to other Christian events and protesting them. The only time I've seen protesters was when I went to Acquire the Fire in San Francisco, and there were 3 groups there protesting. You had the Southern Baptist.
The Southern Baptist.
Yeah, the Southern Baptist Convention protesting right outside, and then to this side, you had the Westboro Baptist Church protesting. And so they were fighting each other while fighting the evangelicals going into the stadium, while we were, like, fighting the God hates people, being like, excuse you, like, you can't, just, no, go away. You're not representing Christianity. But yeah, so, like, Christians will show up to other Christian events to tell them how they're being bad Christians. But you don't see that happening with atheists. It's such a freaking mess, dude.
And if we did, we would be staying, like, 500 feet. Like, we wouldn't go inside.
We'd hold a sign, ask me about being an atheist.
Right, like, and if they don't want to know, they can just keep walking. Like, go ahead. You know, like, oh my goodness.
People.
It was.
I'm glad I'm glad they showed up, because honestly, like, I was ready to fight, but more so debate. I was ready to debate. I love debating, even if it's not like something I'm good at. I just love talking to people in a way that makes them go, "What the hell?"
I just like having like
hope I did that.
deep, meaningful. Yeah, I like having like deep, meaningful conversations. And you can kind of see
I like
that with,
seeding doubt. I like to just like poke somebody right there until they can think about something later and go research it. I don't want deep, meaningful connections. I want to twist the scripture and make you go, what?
It doesn't have to be a deep, meaningful connection, but just like a deeper
King James was gay?
Yes. I love that. I was Mason... I'm totally gonna mess up his name, but he's someone I follow on Twitter, and he was like, "Who is your favorite gay author of a book? I'll go first, King James." And I was like, "Yes."
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, he's like more of a publisher, but
I know.
Oh my god. Yes. I don't know. We'll see what happens next. That's the other thing too, because the one thing they kept on yelling at is, why would you choose today? Why did you choose today? You knew what this day meant to us. I mean, it was Saturday, but like the fact that it was on Easter weekend, and they're like, you're doing this on Easter weekend on purpose, and it's like, yeah, you get it. See how mad you are about, like, you don't own a day, bro. You don't own a day. If we all want to get together on a Saturday and hang out at a hotel, good on us. I'm so sorry it doesn't work for your plans. Go to church and have your Sunday.
Yeah.
But, like, it's funny because it does work. It made them mad like it was intended to.
I was surprised it didn't happen more, to be honest. I would have thought...
I think because of COVID, the response was smaller.
Maybe, I guess. Because, like, I would have thought with, like, how radical they can be... You know, like... And
it was in Atlanta. We didn't mention that. It was in Atlanta, Georgia, in the South. So the response could have been bigger.
It really, really could have. Oh, and one thing I was gonna say is it was so interesting how, like, I don't know why, but like, so, I don't know if I've ever been like, this is gonna sound terrible out loud, but to be like with that many Black people in the same room, like even like just being out and about in Atlanta, like trying to get around to the airport. And like for me, that was like really beautiful to see. Like to be able to.
I mean, I live in California, and it's always been the same too. There's never been a place in California where it's majority Black people, unless you go to like very specific neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Like I lived right next to Compton, and I guess that was majority Black. But feet to the left or something, we're back in a white space because America.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think like especially for me to like have those like experiences where like like where you realize like you're the only white person in the room, and that's okay. That's okay. Like it's okay for you to have that experience and like take a moment and go, oh, okay. Like, but it was really interesting because like I remember being at the airport and like feeling like totally fine, and then like a taller like white guy would walk in, and I would feel
I'm
nervous.
telling you,
I'm like,
white people are scary. Like I do not trust them. Sorry, white people out there, but like I think that comes from like trauma.
Hashtag not all
it's
men.
just a men thing, really.
Disclosure,
no, I think
not
that's
all
just
men.
trauma from growing up, like where I've grown up, like the people who are always like
Right.
been the most terrible to me as a child growing up have always been white people. But unfortunately, I live in a very, very white area as well, but not super white. So like 65% of my area's makeup is Mexican. So I've always been like exposed to culture growing up, but it was never my own. Like I was always at school, even though I'm only mixed, there was only 2 other Black kids, and they were brother and sister in high school, and they had the worst time. Oh dear Lord, I felt so bad for them. But like I was never able to like be around my own part of my half of my culture, so that sucked. But
yeah, so we had a couple of we had some kids at our high school, like probably like 5 that were Black, and 2 of them were adopted, and they were adopted into like by white parents. And I remember at one point being in debate, and she was giving Amber was giving a monologue, and the teacher asked her, can you do that with a Southern accent? And she was just like, no, I don't know how to do a Southern accent. And he was like, but you're Black. And it was just like, no, like
it doesn't even make sense. But I mean,
like, right? Like
I would have responded like, what? Sir, I escaped to the north and I lost my accent. Oh God, I would have done something. I hate people. Okay, well, with that, maybe we should wrap it up before this becomes like way too off topic.
Super off topic. But that's what happens. That's what one of our shows are.
That's true. You're fit right into the team here. It's been fun, and like I look forward to next year. It was a blast seeing everybody and hanging out.
I'm so excited for next year. I am going to be there for the whole time. I'm probably going to go a day early because one of my best friends lives in Phoenix
next year,
her in a year and a half.
I might even just be able to drive there if I have a car at that point. It's not a close drive, but it's like 8 hours. Maybe.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. Anyone who's listening to, come join us, because literally, like, it's not even about the speakers. Like, the speakers are great too, but like, it's just really amazing to have a community and like to be there together. Like, it's something that we don't have a lot of support for in regular life, or at least I don't. But yeah.
Yep, that's definitely. That was like my favorite part, is getting to like meet my friends and interact with them. There were some really amazing speakers though. Like I really loved like Seth Andrews and Dave Warnock, and then your guys' TikTok panel like was fantastic.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up. We'll be posting this sometime. I love everybody out there. I'm gonna try to get better at responding to comments. Here, let me do my outro pitch. Leave a comment if you want to talk to us. I should probably be better at responding to comments. I'm just a terrible person sometimes. But if you are listening to this on Spotify, we thank you. Leave a rating that they have. Yeah, they have ratings now. Go ahead and rate that, but also on Apple, all those fun things. Ratings help us on the podcast side of things. If you want to see our beautiful faces, you can watch this on YouTube. We always have videos coming out alongside our podcast. And yeah, what else? Follow the socials. They'll be in the bio, in the descriptions. And if you have any questions, you can email us at Unholy Trini-tea, not spelt like the channel, just TRINTITY, 2021@gmail.com. And that was kind of like the messiest outro I've ever given, but we'll get better at it sometimes, maybe. Who knows?
Just be sure to demolish the like button, hit subscribe, and
remember
then
to
share
hit the bell
with all
icon.
of your friends. And yes, but we have some exciting things coming up too, because we are also going to we have a interview with Katiosaurus that's going to be coming out soon. We have an interview with Joe Lumen, and we also have an interview with Rabe Hana coming out soon. And then we're also, going to get back to the magic of the three of you talking, Jegaysus, Red Sage, and Heathen Queen. So looking forward to it, and you have a wonderful night.